Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Varsa Foundation Pune, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you to today's online lecture, organized on the occasion of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Jayanti and International Mother Language Day. Varsa Foundation works in the field of cultural heritage with special focus on the identification, documentation, and preservation of both tangible and intangible cultural heritage. The foundation is deeply committed to safeguarding intangible cultural heritage, including oral traditions, performing arts, traditional knowledge systems, rituals, festivals, and community practices that constitute the living heritage of the society. Through research, fieldwork, documentation, lectures, workshops, exhibitions, and digital initiatives, Varsa Foundation strives to create public awareness about cultural heritage and its social significance. The foundation actively engages scholars, students, artists, and local communities, and all its activities are carried out voluntarily, guided by dedication, ethical practices, and shared responsibility towards heritage preservation. It is in this spirit of celebrating language, culture, and shared heritage that we have organized today's lecture. On the occasion of International Mother Language Day, today's topic highlights the importance of linguistic diversity and the historical cultural connections that carry language across regions and communities. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Govind Mopkar. Mr. Govind Mopkar is a young writer and linguist currently pursuing his PhD as a junior research fellow in the Department of Linguistics at Deccan College Postgraduate and Research Institute, Pune. He has previously served as an assistant professor of Konkani at Ganpat Parsekar College of Education, Harmal, Goa. A double postgraduate, he holds MA degree in linguistics and Konkani and has a qualified net with JRF. His academic interests include social linguistics, contact translation, dialectology, folklore, and grammar. He has also contributed in projects with linguistics, translation, and content creation, and is a creative writer in Konkani and Hindi, with a Konkani poetry collection titled as Manaswar. We are confident that his lecture on Konkani language and its international connections will offer valuable insights on how historical depth and cultural exchanges and global dimensions of Konkani language have explored. With this, I request Mr. Govind Mopkar to kindly begin his lecture. Thank you so much. Over to Mr. Govind.
Thank you, Chaitanya, for the introduction. Also, on the outset, I would like to thank Varsa Foundation and in particular Mr. Dhananjay for organizing this talk and for giving me this opportunity. Uh, Before I could share the slides, or while I share the slides, I also take this opportunity to thank all the audiences who have joined. I see two reasons for they joining the lecture. One is, of course, because they want to attend the lecture, and the second one I should mention because they probably want to attend my lecture. So thank you for joining, and thank you Varsa Foundation for having this lecture. I hope I'm audible enough and the slides are visible.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So as I was introduced, the topic for the presentation today will be Konkani language and its international connections. This would be the overview of the presentation. We would learn or we would go through sections that will simplify our work in understanding what the presentation and how the presentation will go. In the first section, we will have an idea of some notions that are used in linguistics and languages in whole. In section 2, we will be making a mention of the national status of Konkani and the geographical presence in India. In section 3, we would be briefly talking about the global presence. In section 4, we will be talking about the socio-historical migrations that are seen. And section 5 will cover the language maintenance and foundations. What are the organizations that help us in understanding how the language is maintained across the globe. Followed by section 6, which is a topic for discussion, that is insider and outsider dynamics among the Konkani communities, and what are the implications as a result of these insider and outsider dynamics. In section 7, which will be my conclusion, and at the end, I would be giving you the references that I've referred. To begin with, do we know about IMLD? IMLD stands for International Mother Language Day. So I would not ask you all questions as such, or I would not ask you all to unmute yourself and give me the answers. But how many of us in the chat know what IMLD is? You could just raise your hands, uh, if possible. Yeah. Okay. Is there anyone else who would react? Maybe you could also write in the chat box that you know, or be thumbs up. Okay, fine. Uh, for the ones who know, well and good. For the ones who don't know, IMLD is a celebration. As the name suggests, it is International Mother Language Day. So it commemorates the language movement that took place in 1952 in the East Pakistan, which is now known as Bangladesh, wherein it was a typical scenario where Urdu was declared as the sole state language of Pakistan. And when I say Pakistan here, it is the East Pakistan, and specifically Bangladesh, as it is now referred. So, as a result of which, people retaliated or people protested against this decision of the state. And who were these people? These people were the Bangla language speaking people, because they were majority in number there, and they decided that this is not just to just focus on one language, and the other language, which is actually in use on a larger scale, has been ignored. So on 21st February 1952, several students, while they were protesting, were killed, which gave a rising tension. And that's how the recognition for Bangla language as a state language in the East Pakistan, that is today's Bangladesh, was given. So their sacrifice, in other words, gave recognition of Bengali as the state language in East Pakistan in 1956, increased the global awareness of linguistic rights, and the UNESCO then declared 21st February as an International Mother Language Day. That's is something that gives an opportunity to arrange a talk like this, and across India and globally as well, a number of events take place on the occasion of International Mother Language Day, which is observed on 21st February. Uh, Coming about this term, that is International Mother Language Day, we understand the notion of Mother Language Day or Mother language in different parameters, in different definitions. Before we do that, I would like to take you to the first part of this session, that is the first section, some notions about what language is, what a dialect is, and a few things that we will be learning in the later slides. It's very basic that we understand language as something that helps us in communicating. Linguistically speaking, it is a structured system in the arbitrary vocal symbols or system that we as humans use in terms of communication. So anything that helps us pass on a message to the other person, and the other person is able to understand it, comprehend it, and give a reply back in either ways, whether it's oral, whether it's through actions, gestures, whatever it is. But there is a give and take of ideas with the help of something that is known as a language. So that is very basic, non-linguistic or partially linguistic definition that I would give to this varied crowd or the audience here. In terms of linguistics, we will then further divide these language into patterns of phonology, which will deal with the sound system or the sound patterns in a given language. We will divide it into morphology. Morphology is the study of word formations along the word structure line. We have something called as syntax, which studies the patterns of linguistic structures, the sentence structures of the language. We have semantics, and pragmatics will deal with the meaning in the languages, meaning of the words, meaning of the sentences, contextual meanings, all of these sort. And we know that language is not alone a function, it is a sense of identity, it is a sense of cognition. We are thinking through languages, and it is also showing us a social structures in various ways. Okay? Now that is very brief about what a language is. Okay? Going back to the second example or the second notion that we would like to clear right in the beginning of the lecture is that what is a dialect? A dialect is a regional or a social variety of language which is distinguished by pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary. Or sorry, it would be or vocabulary. So anything that will vary, any form of language of one language that will vary across regions, across societies, sometimes across religions, and these variations would be at the level of pronunciation, at the level of grammar, which will include word differences, as I mentioned, vocabulary, different structural patterns at some level. All of these will contribute to what an understanding of a dialect is. So, mind you, not just languages, but language which is also subdivided or uh, later divided, or could I say, parted into a form that is known as dialect, is also linguistically systematic. We as common people have an understanding that dialect is something that shouldn't be given that importance, something that is not grammatical in nature, something that is not correct language. I would want to stress more on the word correct language, and that stops us for doing a lot many things that we could do for the betterment of any language. So, mind you, language is systematically, or a dialect even is a systematic linguistic expression in its own way. Moving forward, the next point is that the distinction between a language and a dialect is often political. I've taken this from Weinrich. In his study, he mentions that the distinction between language and dialect is often political. Let us take, for example, a context of any of the Indian languages. We know that across the states of any given state, we have a common language across the state, and each of these languages are spoken differently in different parts of the state. Take for example Marathi. The Marathi that is spoken in Pune region, Kolhapur region, Nandurbar region, and the other parts of Maharashtra would be totally different, or comparably different from each of the varieties they are spoken. However, we are coming at a what do I say? A decision that one of these varieties should be called as the standard dialect of Marathi. Likewise, it goes for every other language. Say, for instance, Konkani in Goa. We know that there is some form of language, some dialect of language, or some variety of language that is considered as a standard dialect. And then there are other dialects which are then called the lesser privileged dialects. Why? Because it does not receive the same status as the other languages, other dialects of the languages. It does not get equal opportunities socially, uh, politically, and in various spheres of life. This might be changing in the present times, which is a good movement, or a good, uh, um, what do I call it, a good step in preserving the language as a whole. Okay? So, as I take for example the dialects in Konkani, it could be Antruzi, Bardesi, Sashti, Mangalorean, and the other varieties, like even for that matter, Karwari variety of Konkani and the other varieties which I have not listed here. But these are the dialects of the language. Now, comparing both the language and the dialect and giving you another example would be an example of a flower. Okay, so we have a flower, and we know that the flower is made up of different petals. Let's take, for example, sunflower. We know that uh, it has various petals or different petals, and these different petals are belonging to the same flower. If there is a petal of rose in a sunflower, it would make something odd. The combination would be something odd. But we know that for a rose to be rose, it should have petals of rose only. For a sunflower to be sunflower, it should have petals of sunflower only. So, and if we just take off these petals of the sunflower and there is no petal left, there wouldn't be something that we could call a sunflower. The same thing happens in terms of languages. The dialects are the petals of languages. So if you just take off something, it will still be a flower. But at the extreme level, if you go on taking off all the dialects, if you just go on discarding the dialects of a language, the language as a system will be very limited. It will be very concise in its growth, in its usage. So, which tells us that for a language to live and flourish, we should also appreciate the dialects or the varieties of these languages that we speak. Okay? So we have two notions right in the first place, language and dialect, both of which are interrelated, and the dialects makes, I mean, contribution of dialects is as important as any other thing in a given language. So it's not a pattern that we should only stick to the standard variety of any language. It is also the dialect that contributes in various ways to the growth of the language. Now, moving ahead, we have this concept of diaspora. So, the diaspora refers to a population that is dispersed from its original homeland. And that is not the parameter, that is not the only parameter, I would say. Say, suppose if I just leave my house, I mean, currently I'm not at home, I'm in Pune. That doesn't make me a diasporic speaker of any of a language, I mean, for that matter, Konkani. If I shift to another place from my homeland and I maintain an emotional, cultural, and linguistic connections or affinity towards my homeland, and that this shift or dispersion from your homeland to the new place is very permanent in nature. It is not coming to Pune for some years, staying here and having a to and fro movement every month, every 2 months, which I usually do to your place. That wouldn't be considered as a diaspora. So, for a diaspora or for anything to qualify as a diaspora, you should be staying in a different place away from your homeland. The movement is very rare, maybe once a year, maybe I mean, once in 5 years, all of this sort, or maybe never. And as a result of which you share a very emotional, cultural, and linguistic connection with your homeland. You never visit that place back in your, I mean, your ancestral place, but you have the sense of belonging there, that, oh, I belong to this land. And that is what is known as diaspora. So this is something that we need to consider while we go ahead with the lecture today. And then we have something that is known as heritage language. For the diaspora people, if they are settled in a new nation, new place, and they have very limited interaction with someone, physical interaction with someone who is in their homeland, as in the movement from their new diasporic place to the homeland is very limited, and which is why over the generations they tend to lose the language. As in, for example, if there is a Konkani diaspora elsewhere, maybe take an example, if there is Konkani diaspora in Dubai. So these families possibly must have shifted 2, 3 generations ago. Let's take that for example. And as a result of this, the first generation who shifted there started using Konkani among themselves. The next generation started a limited use of Konkani just in the home domain, just speaking around with their parents, relatives who are there in Dubai. and eventually the third generation was not even taught the language, or they simply know a few greetings, maybe some few vocabulary in Kokni. In such a case, for the third generation and for the second generation, in some parameters, the language of the home, that is Kokni, would be a heritage language, something that is learned at home, but is not dominant in society. And the range of how much of language do they speak can vary across speakers to speakers. So these often show attrition and structural simplification. As I mentioned, attrition in the use, as in the use gets limited, and yet limited. And there are structural simplifications. You tend to use good sentences, big complicated sentences. Then you tend to drop some of the features and you use smaller sentences. And at some point you just greet people, you just use some basic vocabulary, and that becomes a very simplified version of the language use. So these are the five notions that we would want to look before going to the later part of the study. Now we are moving towards the section 2. The section 2 is talking about the national status of Kokani and its geographical presence. Where is it present in India? This is a very short section that I would be focusing. Uh, the first point here is speaking about the genetic affiliation of Konkani language. So if you see here, just like you and I have a family, and this family structure gives us an hierarchy. I mean, we have great grandfathers, we have grandfathers, then comes our father, then comes us, I mean, our generation, then maybe our children, then grandchildren, and we belong to some family. So, just like these languages, languages are all, just like humans, languages have also been combined into a pattern, a similar patterned functioning or a system of language have been grouped together into distinct families. So one of these families, which comes from the Indo-European family, is Indo-Aryan group of language family. The Indo-Aryan group of language families have been subdivided into various parts depending on its location here. The northwestern here, then you have the south, west, southwest, then you have the central region, and then you have the eastern region. What is more important for us is coming here to the Indo-Aryan, going here, and coming here to the southwest. Now, along the southwest or the west southwest, you have two divisions. One is the west, and the second one is the southwest, which is of much interest to us. From the southwest, which is the Maharashtra Prakrit developed Prakrit. I repeat, it is Maharashtra Prakrit, which gives us two divisions. I mean, from Maharashtra Prakrit, there are two divisions. One is Konkani, and the second one is Marathi. So it's very simple equation. I mean, when my parents or any parent gives birth to two children, both of them are sharing a relation of siblings. So if a parent gives birth to two daughters, both of them are each other's sisters. Likewise, Konkani and Marathi are each other's sister languages. These two are sister languages. Okay, so that is the genetic affiliation of Konkani. Now talking about the national status of Konkani. I see that much of the crowd are Konkani speakers, so I need not tell you something interesting in this way, but for the ones who are new to this, and for the ones who would be looking at Warsaw Foundation's YouTube channel at the later stage, maybe to study something about Konkani, this would be a piece of information, a new piece of information for them. So Konkani is recognized in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution in the year 1992. Okay. Official language of Goa. So it is also the official language of Goa as per the 1987 Act. Okay. Now it is also recognized as minority languages in these states, apart from Goa, where it is spoken as the major language or the macro language. You have micro language formations or the minority language groups of Konkani along the western coastline. So out of them, one is in Karnataka, the second one is Maharashtra, Kerala, and also Gujarat. Now, if you noticed, I have an asterisk here in Gujarat because there are studies which mention that there are language speakers in Gujarat. And my personal interaction with one of the speakers when I had been to Gujarat for a young writers meet, there was one speaker who came running to me because I read a Konkani poem, and he was very happy that there is someone from Goa to visit Gujarat and speak Konkani. So he came to me saying that I belong to the Dang district in Gujarat, and we are Konkani community. We speak Konkani. Although the language is not similar to the way you speak or the way how you recited the poem, but we also identify ourselves as Konkani speakers. So that was very interesting. I mean, coming back to this chart here, or the map of India here, if you notice here, this is the whole map of India, and I have this map here, which is the southernmost population of Konkani, very much known to us. So you have this Govind variety of Konkani. Then you have the Maharashtrian Konkani. I will talk about these at the later stage. Then you have the Konkani along the southernmost coastline. So you have its presence in Karnataka. You have its presence in Kerala. You have it here in Maharashtra in some pockets near Pune and the other neighboring areas. And you also have Konkani that is spoken in the Dang district, which I have highlighted here with a red mark. Now, talking about the Maharashtrian Konkani here, uh, the Maharashtrian Konkani that is spoken, or the dialects of Maharashtrian Konkani, are on a language continuum, which means that people consider themselves sometimes as Konkani speakers, but the dialect is of Marathi. And there are some people who consider themselves as Konkani speakers, and the dialect they speak is a dialect of Konkani. I mean, the Konkani that is well known to us as language of a macro language of Goa and the other parts. So, I mean, I am not going more detail into which or where does it fall on the dialect continuum, but I would just identify these as Konkani, since as per the perceptual dialectology framework, which is focusing only on the people's notion or the non-linguist notion of what their language is, I would talk about these as Konkanis belonging to the Konkani people. So if I understand myself, if I know that the language or the dialect that I speak is a Konkani, is Konkani dialect, I would still consider them as or myself as Konkani speaker. So that is the notion here in understanding the Konkani that is spoken across the western coastline. Now, as per the census of India, there is a language atlas. Uh, so we have to refer to 2021 census because the recent one, which ideally should be in 10 years, that is 2021, was not done due to various reasons. So that gives us the idea that in case of Goa, this is the population of Konkani speakers. Okay. This is the share in percentile compared to the all India presence of Konkani. So then you have Karnataka, which is the second highest speaking region of Konkani, Maharashtra, Kerala. Then we also know about places like Dadra and Nagar Haveli, which has a very concisable list of Konkani speakers, which is noted down as 7,756, which is 0.34%, which is well a good population. There is Konkani speakers along the Odisha region, Tamil Nadu, and these are, mind you, these all the later names of the places are people who have settled to these places for various reasons. And as part of this, it is good that they identify themselves as Konkani. If you notice the census, in terms of the earlier census, there were higher noted population of Konkani speakers than compared to the 2011 census, okay, which tells us that identifying oneself as a Konkani person will give us the actual figure. And if there are any discrepancies in data collection during the census data collection, if we just say that no, we are some other language speakers, mind you, the number will come down. And if there are people who acknowledges that they are Konkani speakers and speak the language, the list of people, the number of here Konkani speakers will increase. So this is the earlier census that we still refer to, which shows us the national status and the presence of Konkani speakers along the Indian coastline. Going to the next section, that is the global presence of Konkani. These are the major regions and major countries that marks the presence of Indian diaspora in the world. So in terms of North America, you have the US and Canada, which is like marking one of the largest diaspora groups. The reasons for their movement will be shared in the later section. Okay? So you have North America, the US and Canada, which have good amount of people living there. In the Europe, especially in Portugal, of course, because of the historical ties with Konkani, people have settled there. In the UK, people for various reasons have settled down in the Europe. In the Middle East, you have United Arab Emirates, you have Oman, you have Qatar, and the other regions where we know many of our acquaintances or maybe many of our friends must have shifted. So in the Middle East as well, then we come to Africa, wherein you have Konkani speakers living in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and even Cape Town for that matter, especially the people from the northwest coast in the Maharashtra state of India. These people have settled there. So we have uh, population across these regions. Also in Asia, interestingly, there is a population of Konkani speakers in Pakistan, Karachi, and there is also a sizable population in Australia. So these are the regions where there are Konkani speakers, and these are diasporas that are settled in these regions. Of course, there would be other countries where there would be some sections of places or countries where the Konkani people have settled, but a proper check would need an account to consider them as diaspora of Konkani. So, but given a large understanding, these are the areas where Konkani is spoken as diasporic variety. Now, this is a tentative or a very, what do I call it? Not so precise list of people and the estimate population across these regions. And this is based on the figures that are found in linguistic studies and the community organizations which have estimated the population of this. This might not be the exact population. Why? For two reasons. Because no studies have considered of understanding what is the exact population of Konkani speakers in the other parts of the globe. But they were more interested in identifying which or who are the Indians, which is the Indian diaspora that have settled down in the other parts of the world. So this is based on the linguistic studies and people who have noted their population on the online sites. That gives me this chart. So we know that there are a good amount of people who are across the globe and who speak Konkani in some parameters, whether it's very minimal, whether it's a community use as well. I mean, on a large scale. So this is the population, estimated population. So going to the next section, that is the socio-historical reasons for migration. So what could be the reasons why these people migrated to the new nation or new places? Okay. The socio-historical reasons for migrations could be one, due to Portuguese colonial rule. And this is more specifically, the first one here is more specifically the inter-country. So moving from Goa to the other parts of the country, the neighboring states would be because of the religious conversion pressures, because of Inquisition and movement to Karnataka and Maharashtra was seen on a large scale. For the ones who know the history of the language. This is the but obvious reason, but we also should understand the second reason that is the trade purpose, the trade and maritime networks that gave opportunities for people, Konkani people, to move across not just state but across the nations. So the Indian Ocean trade was one of the reasons why there was movement across the countries. So Goans were also employed in the British colonies, also in the Portuguese colonies, which is why there was exchange of people from Goa, from Maharashtra, from other parts of the Konkani-speaking regions as well. The third was Gulf migration. This is because mainly of the oil boom economy that was rising in the late 70s. There were some semi-skilled and skilled laborers which migrated from these Konkani-speaking regions to the outside world, especially the Gulf region. And of course, for educational and professional migration, this is usually seen post 1961, post liberation. This is the globalization era, and the mobility is still to be considered for the fact whether it's a diasporic mobility or it is just for the purpose of professional migration and then they come here for maybe their holidays. Now let us take case studies, some two case studies when it comes to the understanding of what a movement, what a diaspora must have happened for. Okay, as I mentioned, because of the religious conversions and Inquisition during the 16th and the 18th centuries, the establishment of Goa Inquisition was another reason that triggered conversion pressure. As a result of which, there was migration of the Hindus. There were internal displacement which took place to Karnataka and Maharashtra. This is just one case study. There are many other parameters why the migration must have happened. The second case study is the international case study that I would take here, migration to the Portuguese colonies like Africa. Wherever there were Portuguese colonies, and I have taken one for example, which is in Africa. Konkani speaking Catholics, especially, and why do I choose to use the word here? I'm specifying that it is Konkani speaking Catholics because this population is still present and they still have their uh, church services that take place in some places in Kopi. So these are the places, and especially in the Eastern African coastals like Tanzania and Kenya, where the population is still here present. These are the peoples who historically migrated because they were serving in the administration, the commerce, or the church institutions during the Portuguese times. Okay. So some of them maybe were clerks, translators, assistants, and some of them were also sailors. So as a result of these, during the early period of time, they shifted to these places and eventually developed societies. Families were developed as a diaspora, and many of them speak the language there in among themselves when it comes to the public gathering, social gatherings. However, many of them shifted to the languages of the land there for better opportunities. Now, this gets us to the fifth section of this presentation, that is institutional efforts in maintaining Konkani. So, how different institutions or associations maintained the language. Okay? So, the Konkani culture prevention worldwide operates through these various efforts. The government academies, which have their own ways of maintaining the language, preserving the language. You have literary bodies, you have university departments, church or the parish networks, the diaspora cultural associations, digital media platforms, and the transnational conventions that usually take place. Out of which many of us give more importance to the government academies and literary body, especially for the population, for the people who belong to these literary associations. We often have the idea that if the language is preserved only through written literature, there is high chance of uh, a population living there. Of course, it is in some degrees, yes, but we should also acknowledge that there are some diaspora cultural associations which might not contribute to a language, I mean, in terms of literary contributions, but they meet, they have conversations, they have church services, they have other practices which are more cultural than literary, which brings in an idea of they being two Konkani speakers in the other parts of the clues. So, I would first talk about the primary institutional basis of Konkani in India. Especially, these are the structured one. These are the government understood or better understood in terms of their contribution, which is more like the literary contribution, and also in some parameters the cultural contributions. We have the Sahitya Academy, Goa Konkani Academy, Karnataka Konkani Sahitya Academy, Thomas Stephens Kendra, Konkani Bhasha Mandal, All in India Konkani Parishad, World Konkani Center, Goa University, and various other bodies, the NGOs, various other associations that run in India. I've not included much of it because we are known to many of them. But what is interesting is the institutional efforts that are taken outside India. The first one, if I could mention a few of the organizations, in the Gulf region, in the Middle East, we have Goan Cultural Center, we have the Konkani Cultural Organization, we have the Mangalorean Catholic Association, and many. The three dots there stands for the other organization, which I have not listed here, but you find them online. They most of them have their Facebook, Instagram, or even online URL portals. So these organizations function not just in terms of linguistic or I mean, when I say linguistic, the core linguistic or the formal linguistics, not just for the literary purpose, but also cultural meetups in terms of singing and dancing on Konkani songs, singing it, meeting, having a conversation, and all other purposes. Then in the UK, you have Goan Association UK, Mangalorean Catholic Association in the UK, and many others. In the USA, you have the North American Konkani Association, the Saraswat Foundation, the American Konkani Association, Konkani Sabha. And I mean, the list that I found very extensive was from the USA. There are many, almost around 20 plus associations spread across the US, wherein they meet, gather as Konkani diaspora. In Canada, we have the Goan Overseas Association of Canada. In Australia, you have the Goan Association of Western Australia. In Africa, Goan Institute of Nairobi, Goan Institute Mozamba. In Portugal, Casa de Goa. These are some of the institutions which work along the preservations line or the maintenance lines of Konkani language. Okay. You see this website here. That is the website you can refer to, which kind of listed many of these, which I could found online on one platform. So what they have done is they have the name of the association, what is the purpose, what do they do, what is the address to contact these people. So it's a very good site that I found online, which is practically a database for the institutions that are run across the globe. Now, very interestingly, as we come towards the end of this session, we have section 6, which is the insider and outsider dynamics of Konkani community. So this insider outsider mentality is basically what leads us to identity crisis. So the linguistic consequences of migration directly comes with script variation, contact influence, intergenerational transfer or intergenerational shift, religious identity formation, regional divisions among people or the diaspora, diaspora versus homeland tension. Okay, if I could briefly talk about each of these, we know that in case of Goa, we have the Devanagari and the Roman script, which are used to write Konkani. Uh, Towards the south, in Karnataka, you have the Kannada script. In the Kerala, you have the Malayalam script. We also have the Perso-Arabic script to write Konkani. So across these five variations, there are tensions. Then coming to the next point, that is the contact influence. If someone moves out of the country, there are high chances that the person is speaking some other varieties or some other pattern of language. There's a lot of give and take of foreign words, a mixture, code switching and code mixing using different borrowings, lexical borrowings, words from the other languages, the pattern of the language from the different languages. So this is the contact influence that we talk about. Then we have the intergenerational transfer. I mean, from one generation to the other generation, whether the language is passed, if passed, in which domains, whether it is only in the house domain, whether it is passed even in the school domain or the educational domain, whether it is passed in the social domains, and if yes, at a later stage, how do these people shift? Whether they still use it in a social domain or they only limit it to the home domain use. Religious identity formations. I mean, just if you could name a few of the associations that I've talked about earlier, we know that people also have this identity association with the religious background. Um, then you have regional divisions. Whether I am a Goan Konkani speaker, I am some other Konkani speaker. So people tend to have these tensions among themselves, as a result of which all of these contributes uh, to the issues of identifying oneself as a Konkani speaker. Okay. At the end, I have also mentioned about the diaspora versus the homeland tension. So we know that there are people who have shifted to the other parts of the world and other states, then where the Konkani is spoken as a macro language, and then we have this authoritative idea that, oh, the one that we speak is the standard one and that is the best one. The others are just polluted forms of the language. So that is something that hinders the growth of a Konkani identity globally. So to give you an example, uh, yeah, I have this interesting slide which gives us the tension or understanding of what an insider-outsider mentality is. So for the ones who have seen this podcast of Amrita Rao with Ranveer Alabadia. So if you could, I took a screenshot of it and I've purposely taken this word here. If you note, it is Masta Avartati. Okay? And of course, for the ones who know where Amrita is originally from, she is a Konkani speaker from the Kannada region. And we know that the Konkani that is spoken in Goa is different, and the Konkani that is spoken in Karnataka is different. Konkani that is spoken in the other parts of the country and the world are also different. However, there was a huge chunk of people who have commented not pleasing or unnecessary things in the comment sections. I've highlighted a few comments. Of course, I do not want to target any of them, which is why I've taken off their names. You have the first comment, which I mean, she says "Masta avartati." What the comment says is "Masta avartati" is wrong. To me, "Dogai panvati" is correct. I mean, just responding to someone who speaks another variety. Uh, just imagine someone who is a well known personality and she is proud about mentioning that she is a Konkani speaker, and then there are her fellow Konkani friends, or not even friends, community members who don't even consider her as an insider, as a Konkani person, and they just make fun of them saying Panvati. Then there is another comment which says, I think she mistakes me. I mean, she makes me forget my Konkani. Then there is another comment which says Kokni left the chat, and then there is another he kasli Kokni re. Uh, so this is the sorry state, which brings in a lot of tension. And mind you, this is one of the reasons many of us don't want to identify ourselves as Kokni. This happens across regions, even in our own localities, in our own state, in our own country, and elsewhere as well. Uh, this is not only about the dialectal variation. This is also more considerably about the social variation. If I speak Kokni in a different style from that of another person belonging to my social locality, my regional locality, there will be still pinpointing to our utterances, our expressions, and that is something that will hinder the growth of identifying oneself as a Kokni speaker. And then the entire notion of celebrating International Mother Language Day is just waste if you don't identify and acknowledge the presence of various forms of the languages across the globe, across the state. So, in conclusion, I would want to present these facts or these thoughts. Kokni represents a linguistically rich Indo-Aryan language with deep historical layering. Of course, when it comes to the diasporic patterns or the movement or the migration patterns, this is very important in understanding the structure of the language. Its international presence reflects the colonial economic and educational mobility, which we have touched upon. Diaspora communities maintain cultural continuity but face language shift issues. Of course, maybe one of their issues is because people target them. The other reasons is that they feel that, learning another language or shifting to another language will give them better opportunities. But just imagine if someone acknowledges you as an insider, how positive you would be in identifying yourself as a Kokni speaker. So the insider-outsider tensions complicate unified identity formation. The census data indicates stagnation rather than growth when it comes to Kokni population growth. Uh, the reason is possibly here that we have just talked about. How do we talk about the sustainability of Kokni identity? First would be dialect or variation acceptability. Acceptability. Let us accept that there are various forms of language, and we got to appreciate that. Take for example a human anatomy. Just imagine our eyes, our hands, every part, every organ in our body was of same size, same structure. How would we look? That is exactly what happens with language. We know that there is a particular form, function of a certain part of our body, and it ought to be like that. So that is the diversity that makes us one as a whole of a human. Okay, so likewise, let us appreciate that there are variations in languages, that are dialects, and let's accept the fact that this is the reality of language. The second one is intergenerational transmission. Yes. Okay, so if I speak Kokni, let me pass it to the new generation. Let me pass. Let take efforts so that the other generation also pass on to the next generation. And to do that, what is important is the digital language planning. Now, digital language planning is not only developing AI tools, it is one of them, but there are other platforms where we can promote a Kokani. I mean, YouTube, Instagram, and the other is one such platform. I should acknowledge all the people, all the creators who are creating content in Kokani. It is a very good step in terms of digital planning of uh, Kokani language and the identity formation. Again, fourth one, the inclusive community identity. So we have a pattern of identifying. Just take for example, in case of Pune, where I am, I learned that there are many Kokani people here, but many of them are not connected to each other. Why? Because they have their own regional groups, they have their own religious group, they have their own other subsectioned groups. So rather than identifying ourselves, of course, we should do whatever the affiliation, whatever the identity is, but let us all come together as an inclusive community of Kokani speakers. With that, Konkani's global journey demonstrates how language functions not merely as a communication, but as a memory, mobility, and identity. Okay, these are my references, and uh, I don't know why the slide is not visible. That yeah, that is Dev Barekuru to you. Okay. I should mention a disclaimer maybe. This presentation was not just for Konkani speakers. You must be knowing many of the things that I've mentioned, but this is also for the others who would want to know Konkani as a lesser known language in the Indian subcontinent. Okay. And mind you, not just Goans or not just Konkani speakers are working on Konkani. There are many other people from outside India who are working on Konkani, and we are just in our own well, and we think that that is the world. Many of us think that there is this idiomatic expression which says "titlos koko titlos meme." So we are of that kind of an idea, and we think that globally uh, it is just the Konkani speakers who do their studies and work on Konkani. But mind you, there are many others who want to learn about the language, who want to study their language. So this presentation is also catering to their needs, and of course for the ones who would want to learn more about Konkani, who are not from a Konkani educational background. I mean, not doing their bachelor's, masters in Konkani, but the larger audience. Okay, I would just have a look at the chat box if there are any questions or if there are any suggestions for me. Okay, thank you for the appreciations. Uh, okay, there is one question which goes like, how do members of diaspora typically report their mother tongue on official government records or census forms in their country or residence, and to what extent does the self-reporting influence their long-term linguistic classification? For example, if Konkani-speaking Govans in Europe report English as their mother tongue over multiple generations, can they still be described as Konkani-speaking Govan diaspora? Very interesting. I think this is something that's very interesting. Thank you, Ratnesh, for that question. The first, I will answer this question in two patterns. One, the first point is from the reporting point of view. We know that the census takes place in India, and now just take for instance the pattern of collecting data for the census. How many of us who have crossed maybe around 30 years of age remember we being asked about what languages we spoke? I think hardly maybe 5 or 10% of the population or these participants who have joined here must have answered that they speak Konkani, or must or may have been asked by the census data collectors of what language they speak. So the issues in reporting is not just about reporting; it is also about collecting data. Usually, the pattern that is followed, if you could just think of any survey that recently took place in your locality, one member doing the survey comes to your house, they ask for the head of the family. The head of the family then answers on behalf of all the five family members, on behalf of four family members. Okay, and in some places possibly there might be that the older generation is speaking a language and they call it some other language. The younger generation speaks another language, but they don't get a chance of reporting that language as this is my language. When it comes to the international population, many census probably might not have an option of Konkani as one of the reported language. To report that they speak Konkani language. So, I shouldn't be talking in the air about the international census because I haven't studied in particular any of it. But this could be one of the reasons why people don't report. They would be possibly reporting Hindi as one of the language, because the global world knows that Hindi is one of the Indian languages. So possibly they might also write it as uh, Hindi. And then the notion of mother tongue is not clear among general public, and also it's not even clear among the linguistic community as well. I mean, linguist, because it varies across scholars. uh, uh, Most of us speak Konkani at home, but we report some other language as a mother tongue because it is socially powerful. Um, it is culturally dominant in some areas, and that is why. And because we don't want to be called as someone who speaks a very gounder language, or the language of the very downtrodden, or people who are not learned as such. So that is one of the reasons. I see Sanjana Shedgaonkar has raised her hand. Uh, if I could take that question. Okay. Possibly it was raised back when I asked about IMLD. If the organizers allow me to answer the other question, is that fine?
Yes, you can take one or two questions.
Yes, I'll just take the ones that are on screen. Can you please tell me, if I want to study more about Konkani in linguistics, which sites would help me learn more in depth? Okay. Thank you for that question. I think learning about linguistics of Konkani, or the linguistic studies in Konkani, the best way to go about is uh, reading the research papers. And why do I say that reading research papers is more important? Because that is the authentic data that you can find references for. So if you go on ResearchGate or any other research-oriented platforms, online sites, you get studies that are done. Some studies are very basic. Some studies are very concrete, for which you will need linguistic knowledge. But you can, of course, start with the basic ones. So yeah. Uh, I will take the other question, and then maybe I could request Jason Bab to ask his question. I'll just take the other question in the chat box so that we don't miss out on that. I would like to know if there is any research that has taken place which has studied linguistic similarities or differences, etc., of Malwani and Marathi and Konkani. Not in particular about the differences, I mean, a comparative study, but there have been studies which have studied Malwani and the other Konkan varieties of Konkani, for example, Sangameshwari and the other that are spoken across the belt. In terms of their dissertations, students' PhD works, and of course, I should welcome you all to Deccan College, because Deccan College has quite a few varieties of Konkani that have been studied. So yes, and also these some of these should be available online. Yes, Jason Bab.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I had put my question actually on the
Oh, sorry.
chat. Yeah, but I'll just summarize in short. It's regarding migrations. There are many general theories about migration. One is about religious persecution, and the other
Hmm.
one is about trade. But latest studies from the Inquisition documents show that migration has been mostly due to famine, war, heavy taxation, better employment opportunity, agriculture.
Right,
Also, those who migrated, like from my ancestors, I'm from Karnataka, we migrated in the Keladi Nayaka region, and Keladi Nayakas were definitely Hindus. And the dominant community is a Catholic Christian community. So, how do we understand that as a cause of migration? Because, recently that has been the talk. And is it really a cause of migration? And migration has been happening since 12th century. So how do we, as linguists, as historians, um, try to understand that? What is your opinion?
right. I mean, I should catch you on the last expression that you just said. What is your opinion? And I
Yeah.
repeat that that will be particularly my opinion. Uh, of course, I must admit that most of us only know about limited reasons for migration. and we possibly try to ignore intentionally or intentionally the other reasons as well for migration. Speaking from a linguistic point of view, only focusing on the language aspect of it, uh, it is more like people who settled there and identified themselves as Konkani speakers, and possibly tried to have their own identity while learning the other language. Uh, if I could understand you better, could you please repeat it again, once again for me?
Yes. What you said is right. Makes sense linguistically. I think it is a linguistic identity which made sense in Karnataka rather than of course, the caste and religion identity comes along with that. But because we are called as Konkanis here,
Right, exactly.
yeah, that is the
And
reason. Yeah.
even if we just check for the reasons, if I could go back to the same slides and refer to the point, although there have been various reasons of migration, but you must have realized that the identity formation was highly dominant than understanding what were the reasons of movement. So, what were the migration patterns? So that answers our question as people who are interested more in linguistic identity than the other, I would say, divisions of migration patterns, right?
Yes, correct. Makes sense. Very good. Yeah.
I
Thank you
think
so much, Mr. Govind, for your valuable time and the presentation. Now we wrap up the session for today, handing over the podium to Mr. Dhananjay Khandagkar, the founder of Varsa Foundation. Dhananjay sir, over to you.
Thank you so much. On behalf of Varsa Foundation, I express our sincere gratitude to Mr. Govind Mopkar for delivering such an insightful and engaging lecture on Konkani language and its international connections. His talk beautifully highlighted the historical depth of Konkani language and its international connections shaped through culture, contact, and migration. We also thank all the participants, students, researchers, academicians, and language enthusiasts who join us for this session and for their active participation throughout this 3-day online lecture series. I would like to acknowledge the dedicated voluntary efforts of the Warsaw Foundation team, whose commitment made the successful organization of all 3 lectures possible. As this lecture makes the conclusion of our 3-day lecture series, we are pleased to share that all the lectures have been recorded and are available on the Vasa Foundation YouTube channel. We encourage you to watch, share, and subscribe to the channel to stay connected with our future programs. Finally, we thank everyone for being part of this series organized on the occasion of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Jayanti and International Mother Language Day, celebrating linguistic diversity and cultural heritage. With this, we formally conclude today's session. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.